in the United States was around 200,000, but by the early 2000s, that number had exploded to over 1.5 million people in prison, with hundreds of thousands in other penal facilities. Think youth facilities, jails, and immigrant detention centers. And much of that increase can be attributed to Reagan-era war on drugs policies, although the war on drugs was first popularized by the Nixon administration in the 1970s. Popular wisdom connects these policies to the rise of crack cocaine across the US. However, according to Alexander, the official political campaign in 1982, known as the War on Drugs, actually predates the rise of crack cocaine addiction it was commonly assumed to address. She writes, "A few years after the drug war was declared, crack began to spread rapidly in the poor black neighborhoods of Los Angeles and later emerged in cities across the country. The Reagan administration hired staff to publicize the emergence of crack cocaine in 1985 as part of a strategic effort to build public and legislative support for the war. The media campaign was an extraordinary success. The media bonanza surrounding the new demon drug helped to catapult the war on drugs from an ambitious federal policy to an actual war. Because of its cheaper price, crack cocaine use spread more rapidly in poor communities than its more expensive counterpart powder cocaine. After the war on drugs picked up popularity and speed, we began to see the rapid incarceration of minorities, oftentimes for non-violent drug-based offenses as a result. And those arrested for crack cocaine-related charges face much more severe sentences compared to other drug offenses. For example, it was common practice to follow the 100-to-1 rule. An op-ed in the New York Times explains, "In what's known as the 100-to-1 rule, federal law mandates a 10-year sentence for anyone caught with 50 grams of crack, about the weight of a candy bar. To get a comparable sentence, a dealer selling powdered cocaine would have to be caught with 5,000 grams, enough to fill a briefcase." This wasn't rolled back until 2010 when Congress passed the Fair Sentencing Act. The act reduced the disparities between sentencing for crack and powder cocaine from 100-to-1 to 18-to-1. But despite the partial reversal of war on drugs policies, the US still imprisons more people per capita and overall than any other country in the world. And although African Americans made up only roughly 13% of the US population in the 2010 census, in many areas they are the majority of the prison population, even though they are not necessarily committing crime at a higher rate than white populations. As a result, Alexander writes, "Although this new system of racialized social control purports to be colorblind, it creates and maintains racial hierarchy much as earlier systems of control did. Like Jim Crow and slavery, mass incarceration operates as a tightly networked system of laws, policies, customs, and institutions that operate collectively to ensure the subordinate status of a group defined largely